I don't know how they're going to start off your um, program, like once you sign up. I don't remember what that's like. Um, but it may be that as you are starting off, it already has you, I know it has you create a class, and it may even have you do the roster already, but I'm going to show you just quick how to start the registration process, just in case. So if you're on the main home screen, you go to instructor and you click on your name, and then you go to institution administration. And in here, this is where you can add a new class. And you can add as many classes as you want. Um, it just, it's whether you can enroll students is the big question. And so you could add, eighth grade math already, of course, but then seventh grade, sixth grade math. Again, my recommendation is to enroll them in the eighth grade one. But even if you're in another one, it doesn't matter because you can still move them anywhere, no matter what it's called on the one you purchased. Um, but then once the class is there, what I do is I name my classes this way, so it's simple for me rather than the long one that they have listed out here. Um, so I do something like this, and then if I want to keep it kind of in a code, like if some of the kids are down in sixth grade math, where if someone else looks at their screen, they'll go, "Oh, you're in sixth grade." It keeps it at least of the potential for secret, which they might not keep it anyway. But so I'll do something like this, where there's letters and numbers. For me, what I do is the first number is always the actual grade. So this is a second grade course, this is a third grade course, but the other kids don't know that. So that's just the way I structure classes. To take a quick look at how this works, I'm going to use Kai's so that I'm not getting into any confidentiality issues. Um, and I'll just quick show you a couple of the reports and how they work so that you have kind of a working knowledge of the basics. Of course, you'll probably need more, but you can call and ask, and I can either do videos or we can just talk it out once you're a little more familiar. But if I go in to reports, oh, actually, I should go back. There's one more thing I need to do here. When you have a class, let's just click fifth grade math still. When you have a class, once you make your student roster, which in your administration one, in that drop down, you just do student roster and you add student names if you didn't already in the setup process. But you go to class administration and see in students here enroll. And that's where when you click on enroll, I can't do it because I don't have any more open licenses. But when you click on enroll, you click on the instructor name, you click on the class you want to enroll in, or in this case, you're already in it, so it'll do this class automatically. And then you pick which subscription type you're going to use, and then you click on a student name. So again, if you have trouble with that later, maybe call me, we could FaceTime or something, because I can't show you here because I don't have it. But I just thought I probably should go back and mention that really quick. Um, but now let's just get into the report so you can have a quick working knowledge on how the kids will be tracked and how you can know what best to do with them. Let's start with progress reports. This is probably the most important one. When I click on an individual student, go to their progress report, um, I can start, the first thing you'll see is this initial knowledge check. Because once the student opens their program for the first time, signs in with their account information, they will be given a little tutorial on how to use the program, where it's teaching them how to use the tools, like how to enter stuff, how to use the ruler, how to use the calculator, things like that. And they decide which things they can use calculator on and not. And I have actually chosen to let them. I feel like most of the time they have good discrimination where it's like there's certain things they can't, certain things they can. But of course, if you want to go 100% no calculator, you can force that. You got to really watch because not only can they use the ALEKS one, they can go down um, to their app of the calculator. Anyway, they'll do that and then they'll go into their initial knowledge check. Well, the initial knowledge check comes up here. It'll give the date. It'll say initial instead of knowledge check. And then the number that's in front here is always what they passed in tests in their knowledge checks. It's their mastery. And so in this case, you can see Kylan, his first one, he tested in at 53%, meaning that over half of the subjects he already could fully master. Um, then any number that's after this, and you'll see it's a lighter blue bar. It doesn't show much here because it's not a lot, but that's how much they've passed in lessons afterward. And so, for yours, if your students are between like say 20% and 80%, my personal recommendation is they should stay in that course. If it's below 20%, I think it's better to move them down. And if it's above 80, I would still actually leave them here. That's the way I do it. But I know in your situation, you're trying to get progress. So that's where I'll show you in a minute how to see what areas they're weak in. You'd want to check there because if they're just kind of overall pretty well rounded but pretty strong, or if they are really strong in most areas, but the couple that are pretty low are ones that are not core, then go ahead and move them up if that's better. And I'll show you that in a minute. But for here, this tells you how the progress goes. What happens is once they've learned some topics, either they'll hit a place where the program already assigns them a knowledge check, or you'll have to do it yourself. I personally do it every Monday. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but that way I have a weekly sampling. Um, and of course, I do it different with Kai here, but on when I'm at school, I do it every Monday. What happens is most of the time, especially with students like yours that have been struggling, this is their first time in a program like this, they haven't been caught up. What usually happens is that they start they'll gain ground. Like let's say they gained, um, let's say hypothetically they gained 10%. You know, even though they're behind, they found some topics a little easier for them because they're a couple grade levels low. They found a couple easy topics. They get 10% here, so it's 53 plus the 10 would be 63 total, but 10 hasn't been mastered on a knowledge check yet. They'll take their test and they'll do something like this. They get 59, and so 4% were lost. And that just means that of those 10% of that they gained, 4% they couldn't actually pass on the knowledge check. So it'll make them redo it. You know, they don't get to just move on. And that's the difference about ALEKS. That's why I like it, is that they only pass 59%. So now they have to go redo the 4% that they didn't get. And they have to do mastery in their lessons first. They can't miss one and just be fine. They have to get to where they're consistently doing it right. I like that. In this case, it was the opposite. Kai finished 2, so he's at 55. But when he went on to the knowledge check, it actually jumped him to 59 because once he showed mastery on the core ones that he'd already taken, they then kind of moved it up a half notch to the next incremental lesson, and he was able to intuitively know it. And so he was able to go to 59. And that'll happen regularly if you use this year upon year with the same student. I have this happen with most all my kids now. Anyway, this is the way you track it. And I'll describe out the process more later, but what I have the kids write down in on their papers that they take home for their parents to sign as the official progress is I only let them write what's in the first column here. I don't let them write the total because they'll want to go on like their main page, it just shows them total percent done and write that. But I don't let them do that because if that hypothetical example, if they wrote down 63 on their page and their parents sign it, and then they come in here and test down to 59, and their parents check and see they're at 59, they either think their kid's lying or that you're cheating them. And so either way, it rarely goes well. So I really work hard on, especially the first few weeks, I make sure that I verify. I have every kid walk over and fill out their paper. I look at this with them, and I make sure they write down what I tell them to with pen, just to make sure that they're not messing it up. Because, of course, their initial reaction is to do the momentary glory. They don't think long run, even if you try to teach them how. They tend to want the best thing now, and then it hurts them later. So this is the side I always do. And again, I usually do knowledge checks on Monday, and they write it right after. So it would look like this one, where it'd say their percent plus 0. And so they know this is what you write, and you go home and get that signed. And that way the parents know every single week where their kids are at and are more likely to force them to do this at home to catch up if they're behind level, if they're rocketing through and gaining ground, especially if they're behind, if they're a year or two behind grade level. They get excited, their parents are proud, and that actually also helps parents usually want to keep them doing homework at home because they feel that motivation, momentum. The next report here that I'm going to look at is time and topic. This is great. I use it to track how kids are doing at home. Are they actually performing well at home, or are they struggling once they go home, or cheating, just opening the programs their parents think they're doing it, but they don't actually do any work. But it's great, like if you're teaching like a lecture to the 8th grade, or to the 7th grade, the other 8th graders, or the 7th grade, you can have this up on a computer and just look over at it once in a while, click from student to student in like a little down moment, because you can track instantly how the students are doing. So here you can see this last week that I had Kai doing his math. The gray bar is how much time they've spent with the program open. It doesn't necessarily mean working. It just means the program is actually open and on their main page or a work page. The blue bar is how much they have learned, like a topic that they've mastered in the assignment sense. And then red is when they started but didn't even finish to learn. Okay. Sorry, I had to take a pause there for a moment. So that's not learned. And then up at the top, this means they took a knowledge check. So this first column is a great example. It shows that they worked for, it says 36 minutes spent on the program open, but they gained no topics. Well, this means he spent the whole time doing that initial knowledge check, which is great. That's fine. On these two, he didn't do, well, five topics learned in a day is great. That's kind of what I hope for each day. So 40 minutes and 5 topics learned is perfect. That's where I want kids in the zone. Your kids that are behind, to be better if they could do more, but this is a fair amount. It means they're gonna do 100% growth in a year theoretically. So it actually is solid progress, even if it's not as fast as you would have loved. This one is a little closer. It's like 2 topics learned. I'd want to know, was there some goofing off in that time? Or is it just that they had some hard topics? But in this case, of course, he has a knowledge check up here too. So he did a knowledge check and 2 topics. And that happened in all these. This one shows he only worked on it 25 minutes this day, no knowledge check, but he was able to finish 2 topics and start on the third that he didn't finish. And so in 25 minutes, that's not bad. So that's the way you can track it. And so when you're actually in real time on the day, that's a handy thing. The other thing is on this little grid pattern here that gets you back to their dashboard in this case, for the student, since we're in their thing. The other thing is here you can see their most recent activity. So you can see the wrong answers, right answers as they go. What I don't remember right now, I know they used to have this. I'm assuming they still do, but I can't see it here to confirm. I think they have another icon that shows they checked for, they did the explanation, if I remember right. And so here you can see the exact amount of time that they spent on it and at what time it is. So you can see that at 6:09 a.m. he was working on it. He worked on it for 21 seconds, and he got it right. And 2 minutes on this one, they got it right. So it kind of shows you how they're doing. And the icon, if there is one still, for explanation, you can see, did they spend, because sometimes kids will have the explanations, they'll miss like 4 in a row. Then they'll show the explanation, I'll hover over it, and it'll say 5 seconds or 18 seconds. And it's like, they didn't read it at all. They just did it to technically do it because they know that I'll check. So that's where I go over and say, hey, even if I'm talking with a different group, I'll just call out really quick, Jill, you need to, when you're doing the explanations, I need you to really read it. Don't just open it up, because mine shows your last explanation. You only had it open for 7 seconds. And that gets them used to the accountability of it. So then the last thing I'll just show really quick is how to assign knowledge checks. I'll talk later about why I do Monday and how I do my grading. But for me, I do Monday. You could do Friday to close out the week. But I do a knowledge check. I assign them in the morning, like when I get to school, I assign them. That way, if kids want to work the night before, they don't suddenly hit where they have to do the knowledge check the night before at home. So I wait to assign it till I'm at school already in the morning. Sometimes I'll even do it right as math class is starting. I'll just go through and click everyone through. But you click on this request knowledge check, and then progress knowledge check and confirm. Comprehensive, we can talk about this later. I don't do that hardly ever unless I'm worried that there's too much parent help or some cheating going on or something, then I might do this. But even though technically, you could say that each quarter it's good because if they forgot already that they should have to go do it, I found it's way more demoralizing than is necessary, and we can talk more about that later, but I only do this if I suspect cheating. So that's kind of the quick overview. If you have more questions on specifics, let me know and I can either do a video or just walk you through it there. But this hopefully is enough to get you started on the program portion, and then I'll also do one on the grading.